According to the OECD, FDI inflows to developing countries are expected to drop significantly as the sectors that have been severely impacted by the pandemic, including the primary sector and the manufacturing sector, account for a large share of their FDI. We spoke to the Deputy CEO of RDB, Zephanie Niyonkuru, for his plan on the economic recovery.
Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, foreign direct investments will be going down across different parts of the world. So it's not really Rwanda only, but also in the rest of the countries, especially given that with the lockdowns that have been going on, suspension of travels and so on and forth, there have been really a slowdown in investment activities. So with the case of Rwanda, for example, if you look into our data from last year, if you combine the commitments or the investments that we registered the projects that were valued at $2.4 billion US, and these are projects that will take between 3 to 5 years to be operationalized. But if you look into also those numbers, you're talking about 30% of that value being FDIs. So we are going to have a significant drop this year, a decrease. And also, if you look into some of the data from our Ministry of Finance, you're talking about anything around 60%, decrease. But again, as the economy recovers, we are likely to see some investments coming in toward the second half of 2020.
Right. So as the country recovers, what is the plan now going forward for the country to position itself to be more attractive for FDIs?
We definitely keep undertaking targeted efforts in terms of promoting these investments. We have kept talking to investors. We have kept providing support in terms of making sure that despite the pandemic of COVID-19 going on, they still become able to roll out some of their investment projects. So even if the flights or commercial flights have not been happening or going, they are resuming in August. But we've been really still talking with investors via teleconferencing, virtual meetings, and really making sure that we provide remote support to them so that they can really keep rolling out investments that they had planned. As I mentioned before, despite all of these efforts, there will be some drop or some decrease, but we keep providing targeted support to make sure that some of the key projects that we had in the pipeline can be operationalized, but also making sure that we attract new investments to respond to needs that were mainly brought by the pandemic, but also other interventions or priorities that we had even before the pandemic.
Right. Tourism has been Rwanda's largest foreign exchange earner, but it's also been one of the hardest hit sectors by the COVID-19 pandemic. What strategies are in place in order to help recover that sector?
True, tourism was one of the sectors that were hit the most, especially given that it's dependent on international travels. So when travels were suspended, international tourists couldn't come in. But of course, as people keep working on fighting this pandemic, we've been working on making sure that we put in place guidelines that will help us to keep protecting tourists against this pandemic, but also making sure that we give priority to the health of tourists. So one of the things that we did was really putting in place specific guidelines which operators have been following, and also making sure that we undertake testing for the tourists who are coming, who are going to visit quite a number of tourism attractions across the country. So we recently reopened tourism activities, and including also allowing tourists from abroad coming in, especially those who will be coming with chartered flights or private jets. And then we have also been rolling quite a number of programs related to promotion of domestic tourism activities. So as of now, we have hundreds of Rwandans who have been visiting different attractions. But as we do all of this, we have really kept emphasis on giving priority to the, to making sure that tourists are protected against this COVID-19 pandemic.
Right, being innovative at this time is going to be paramount to success, it feels like. So how are you encouraging players in the tourism sector to innovate so that they can thrive in this new post-COVID-19 era?
We have been rolling out quite a number of partnerships with members of the private sector. For example, if I come back on the domestic tourism campaign that I alluded to, which started in June, and it should be going up to December 31st this year. One of the things that we did was also slashing prices on some of key attractions or products that we had. A case in point is prices for gorillas. Normally, a permit, goes at $1,500. But with this promotion that I'm talking about, we have slashed prices to 200 for Rwandans. And also, we have been having partnership with the hotels and other players to make sure that it becomes easier for them to have packages for travelers, for tourists, so that we can really keep supporting these hotels recover from the losses that they made during the pandemic. So the innovation part of the thing has really coming in terms of having specific packages, making sure that as we do this, of course, we keep giving specific priority to protecting tourists against this pandemic, and also making sure that they use all of online platform to do marketing of their activities, and also where the need be, if you're talking about training of their staff, leveraging the IT solutions to be able to achieve that.
Right. Let's move on to the manufacturing sector. Rwanda's manufacturing industry has managed to contribute about 17% to the GDP and has been steadily growing, that is, before COVID-19. So going forward, how can this sector leverage on the opportunities that have been presented by the pandemic?
True, the sector has been growing quite well, including really having a good contribution into the GDP. But with the pandemic, they have been slowed down into the overall production process, and also the overall output has gone down. In terms of the response to the pandemic, number one, the government has put in place quite a number of recovery measures, including establishment of economic recovery fund, which started with $100 million with an idea of even increasing or adding in more money. The idea is to make sure that these companies, including those involved in manufacturing, do get access to some liquidity so that they resume their operations, so that they really strive to be where they were before the crisis and even go higher, keep growing. So the Economic Recovery Fund is one of the initiatives that the government has put in place to make sure that these companies get access to cheap financing, especially if you talk about the working capital, so that this company can be able to get raw materials, pay their employees, and really maintain jobs, and also keep producing and supplying the local and international market. That's number one. Number two, we have also been having specific targeted programs which are geared at increasing the capabilities of these companies, especially if you look into what I can call must-have items, because during the pandemic lockdown, there are some products which were needed the most. So the key question is, how do you not only increase on the capabilities of these firms, but how do you also substitute majority of the inputs that have been coming in? So that's really the second arm. And then number three, if you look into the opportunities, you're also talking about new products that we saw coming into the market. When the pandemic started, for example, we had no company that was manufacturing personal protective equipment. As we speak, we have several companies that are producing now face masks, and by this case, I'm talking about what we call barrier masks or homemade, and also the medical surgical masks. That's really one of the manufacturing activities that has started, which came actually from this particular pandemic. In addition to those, we also have another company that is currently producing face shields. We also have another company that is now going to start production of coveralls. So you're basically talking about companies resuming manufacturing activities. You also have that component of companies taking advantage and produce to replace the imports that we've been having. And then at the third level, we have these new sectors that came on board to respond to the demand that came in because of this pandemic.